Hi, this is Billie Beene here with a U.S. news update. Today's date, February 18, 2024. It's about 3 p.m. in Texas, episode 137, and I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share, and thanks for your support of my channel. So, what we'll be covering, taking it to the streets. The American people are as mad as hell, and we're not going to take it anymore. Texas Intel. The FDA okays no consent. Truckers, no shipments to New York City. It could be that they may have some empty shelves coming soon. And JB okays illegals to vote. Some of my sources are God and the Bible, Patriot, subscribers. Recent interview by Greg Hunter of Martin Armstrong. U.S. Immigration, Before It's News, Tim Brown, Before It's News, Safeguard, Vax Exemptions, Breitbart, Times Union, Newsweek. Okay. Let's get started. I'll begin by drawing a U.S. map so we have some idea of where are things taking place geographically inside the U.S. So we've got Florida, Texas, California, right here. Now, Daily Mail is bringing this out. Oh, yeah. So Texas Intel also right here at Eagle Pass, near Eagle Pass, Texas. And this goes along with the American people, baby, taking it to the streets. We're not going to put up with a whole lot of anything else we find unconstitutional, illegal, and a threat to we the people and to our children. So, we are cleaning our weapons, sharpening our swords, and bowing down before God to pray for victory in battle. And kinetic battle might be on our agenda. Okay, so the great governor of the state of Texas, Greg Abbott, and the great governors of 25 other states standing with Texas, including Alaska. That's one of the states that began standing with Texas from the start. So, Texas is building and is putting forth $10 billion to protect the Texas, but to protect the entire U.S. from illegals coming in here. They're building a military base near Eagle Pass, Texas. That's going to be called Operating Base Eagle. It will house initially 1,800 and can expand to house 2,300 troops. So we're seeing a long-term plan being put in place, money being put up by Texas. So this current situation at the border where we have the National Guard, from Texas, from Florida, from Georgia, from Louisiana, from South Dakota and other states, and Highway Patrol, and Oklahoma also standing firm. It is apparent now with this beginning to break ground and move ahead. The military base will encompass 80 acres. This will be a new base for the Texas military. So this isn't going to be a short-term event. And it's near the banks of the Rio Grande. Yep, so that's going on. And we have this. We also have, from Stork Dork, that Alaska, 36% of their people favor secede. I will make this blanket statement. This is what I believe. If in November of 2024, President Trump is not reelected, I submit the very strong possibility that 26 states plus may secede. So we see that going on. And now we have this. And we say thanks to Alaska for standing with Texas also. From U.S. immigration, the Homeland Security, and we know current attempt to impeach the Director of Homeland Security, Alexandro Mayorkas, is in process. Their money is down $700 million. Well, you need to be prepared to remain on the sidelines, because the Republicans and I believe some Democrats who are and actually still believe in the Constitution, a few, are standing firm with the American people. No money. And so it'll be interesting to see when the House gets back from their current 2-week recess later in February. We know they have to approve some type of temporary funding. Otherwise, the government will shut down. I submit to Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, that no money should be put on the floor for war in Ukraine, Israel, other locations, and no money for Homeland Security or any other organization. It should just be a general funding of the federal government to keep it going until President Trump returns. Now, Homeland Security also oversees ICE. And so, what the evil and corrupt Homeland Security is saying, give us money, or ICE will release all those illegals we currently have in jails in New York City. So, New York City, you are a bullseye for the deep state. They really want to take you out. So that's going on. And now we have this. Okay. New York City is a bullseye for the deep state. So ICE is threatening to release something like 6,000 illegals, put them out on your streets. And we understand New York City, the people are, they've had enough too. We shouldn't be surprised to see constitutionally minded New Yorkers taking it to the streets. What we have going on in Colorado and Denver, I reported on earlier, and the story continues. They're swamped and they're out of money, and the Democrat mayor, Nick Johnson, or Mike Johnson, it's a different Mike spelling of Johnson. It's a different Mike Johnson from the Speaker of the U.S. House. Ask JB, let the illegals work who are here in Denver, because we're out of money. And they're trying to divert, and they're full in Denver. And they want to overflow this to a small town near Denver, Lakewood City. And the people there are taking it to the streets. Way to go, people of Lakewood City, Colorado. Stand up to an evil and corrupt government. Yeah. And the Lakewood City people are pushing back hard. We say, way to go, taking it to the streets. Now we have this. in San Diego, California, we have this. San Diego, California, it's an NGO that processes illegals. We're full. We're full. We're going to have to close this NGO because we know with Texas standing firm and their illegals coming across now, it's like 1 or 2 or 3 or none, that all these illegals now are going to Arizona and California. And the people there are gonna take it to the streets, I bet. So in San Diego, they're having to close an NGO processing center because it's full. And since 2023, illegals crossing into the U.S., 2 million plus, and in the last 3 years, correlating to the time that JB has been our alleged leader, 2021 to 2023, 6 million. But some put that number at 10 million. And a percentage that has increased under under JB, the number of illegals crossing illegally into the U.S. has increased under JB 277%. Yeah. So that's going on. And now we have this. Fox News. The iconic Roosevelt Hotel, a beautiful hotel in New York City, has gone to the illegals and it is trashed out. And that's being reported on. Now, I submit to you, we're seeing these mainstream media reports about the negative impact of illegals coming in under JB. I submit to you, this is a coordinated movement by the deep state and the Dem Party who want to remove JB as the candidate because we're seeing it on mainstream media. And now I have this, a Patriot subscriber of mine. The government is supposed to serve us, not brutalize, manipulate us with threats and fear porn, coercive mandates, thought police, and medical surveillance, and the end of public health scam is on its way before it's too late. We need to end public health scam before it's too late. And I agree with you, Patriot subscriber. I have another Patriot subscriber who's talking about, and I'll be going into this, meds without knowledge and consent because I see that it's real, the threat. And this Patriot subscriber says, early in the morning, in my cellar, we can see fine white fibers floating through the air, coming in from the outside and then landing on surfaces. She says it's a heavy accumulation. I have another Patriot subscriber who says this looks like genocide. I couldn't agree more. And we're talking about genocide inside the U.S. perpetrated by an evil and corrupt government. Now I'll bring some more information about meds without consent. So I brought that out, meds without consent. And we have this going on that came out from Hal Turner. And I was talking about several things I had looked at from the National Institute of Health, some science papers. All I was looking for was verification on a science level that the information that Hal Turner had received that a movement was in place by the National Health Institute to put some type to overcome the human behavioral barrier to taking pharma for the arm. They wanted to get that in place and to put it, this C virus, pharma for the arm, because the American people won't line up and take it. So this evil and corrupt deep state, working through the NIH, the CDC, the FDA, and so on, is putting together a plan to distribute without knowledge and consent of American citizens this C virus, pharma for the arm, in some way like food or water or air. Now, maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago, I reported on a Dr. Chandler who had been the science advisor for JB, who had been given a job assignment by KH, alleged to be the U.S. Vice President, to Dr. Chandler to come up with a method to distribute C virus, pharma for the arm, in the U.S. municipal water system. And I looked at the details. This came from Real Raw News, and it was a 32-page. And so what she was putting forth is it would take maybe hundreds of gallons of the pharma for the arm to thousands of gallons of water, and it would be very expensive, and the water system would have to take their filtering process down. Now, I submit to you, and she said this doesn't look like it would work. I agree with Dr. Chandler, and this is my assessment of one major roadblock to it working. If you're taking the filtering system down of the municipal water system, then within hours or days, you're going to have people puking their guts out because they're going to be infected. Cholera, botulism, E. coli, and other things that are blocked when there's a good water filtering system in place. So then it would only be hours or days before a common source would be tied back to the municipal water system. Now, I'm bringing this out again because this is another plank in the foundation that we're building, that the evil and corrupt U.S. federal government wants to poison the American people one way or another. And now, what do we see with our lying eyes? We see certain things. And I'll go in a little bit of detail because I was using certain words: parasite, also nano, bacteria, and I'll explain this a little bit more. This, according to Hal Turner's intel, the process to spread this through air, water, food was going to use certain things: parasite, nanoparticles, bacteria, and virus. And so there was some confusion between parasite and bacteria. So here is the standard model for bacteria, and it's got DNA inside. This is a standard model for a little virus. Now, I'll give the general definitions for bacteria and virus. Bacteria is living. A virus is not living. And the virus must attach to a living cell. Now, bacteria and parasite. So I'll explain this relationship in humans. We do have in our gut good bacteria that are parasites. It's a symbiotic relationship. That means it's mutually beneficial for both the bacteria and the humans. We need that good bacteria in our gut to digest our food, and the bacteria then gains food. So this is the definition of the parasite bacteria. We've always had that. Now, many of us would have heard stories of maybe people who have been on antibiotics for a long period of time and it killed all the good bacteria, and they would have gut issues for months or maybe up to a year until all that good bacteria regrew. So now, the deep state's plan is to put the pharma for the arm into the virus. This is a standard method using the virus as a vector that then has to infect. In order to replicate, the virus must go inside a living cell, bacteria, and their plan is to use the standard bacteria that are parasites inside our guts. So that's going on. And now we have this. So we know from the past, the pharma for the arm traditionally has used a diluted live virus, and then this would lead to our bodies, created by God, generate our immune system, so that if we were exposed to that virus in the future, we would have, our immune system would have already seen it and had and overcome it. That's a standard pharma for the arm. And I'm not disputing the use of this type of pharma for the arm as being beneficial for human health. Can you put bad things in pharma for the arm? Yes, you can. So now this is coming out that some additional information about pharma for the arm. This refers to pertussis, which is whooping cough, a traditional pharma for the arm. But the new information that's coming out is it does take down the symptoms if you're exposed to it, but it always in your system remains contagious. And that was also another characteristic of this C virus, pharma for the arm. The deep state wants to put in food, water, air, that it be contagious human to human. So this is coming out. This could be a mechanism for that to happen. And now we have this. Okay. So we can say, well, this sounds like a conspiracy. Really? Let's see what we see with our lying eyes. Now, lying eyes is a term from the 1933 comedy Duck Soup. A husband is smooching it up with another woman. His wife comes along. She says, hey. And he says, no, it's not what you think. Who you gonna believe, me or your lying eyes? It's satire. Your lying eyes, what you actually see with your eyes, what you hear with your lying ears. And what do we see now. So this is coming out that the FDA on January 22, 2024, what did they okay? They okayed U.S. citizens to receive meds without knowledge and consent. Now, they put this requirement in, as long as it's just minimally impacts, minimal risk. Yeah, it's okay for some experimental human clinical trials to be put out or into the American people without consent. So, what do we see with our lying eyes? We see another plank in this foundation we're building that the U.S. government wants to medicate American citizens without knowledge and consent. So yeah, it's working. We're seeing that come together. Now we'll talk about what's going on with all these court versus President Trump. Okay. We'll talk about here is Florida, here is Georgia. This is Atlanta, Fulton County, DA. No, I think that, yeah, she's Attorney General. FANI Willis, who brought charges against President Trump for RICO charges. He's saying that the election in 2020 was rigged, and that's how JB won. Yeah, so this is the way the Dems work. Everything they're doing, they project on their opponent. So she brought that out, and then, oh, what happened to her? Well, it's like Peyton Place. So she's had a lover since 2019 who was married, and then he works for her, and then she put him in the position of being a prosecutor, for which he's not licensed or academically trained, but oh, and she paid him $600,000 a year, and then they took cash out of, this is a campaign position, Attorney General. You have to run for election. People make donations so they can control you a lot of times. And she had a cash, and she took the cash, which is illegal. And then she took her lover all over Europe, you know, for this and that. So now it's coming out. And Dr. William Mount brought this out in her most recent trial. This is for ethics violation. He said that what the TV was showing was a Fani Willis double, and the Fani Willis double had her dress on backwards because the zipper was in front, and on the camera she had a group of papers stapled together. She shook and yelled, "This is all lies, lies, lies." And the judge just said, "Let's take a 5-minute break." Okay, so that's going on. Can't make this stuff up. Yeah. And so we have this. Yeah, that she took cash from her campaign account and took her boyfriend to Europe, and his name is Nathan Wade, and you see him on the witness stand. He looks like a deer in the headlights. And now we have this. So we have things going on in Georgia. We also have a court activity against President Trump, and that's in New York. So we've got Georgia and New York, and there are other places. So we have in New York, U.S. House of Representatives from New York, Elise Stepanik, is filing a charge of, filed a complaint, and that's against the New York Attorney General Alvin Bragg, saying he violated ethics when, during the course of a recent trial, oh yeah, so that was a trial in New York City, and President Trump was charged with business fraud, and that had to do with putting a value on real estate. Now, and borrowing money from banks illegally. Now, the banks had been paid back early. They were happy. And it's never the individual who places value on his or her own real estate, especially for a commercial bank loan. No, you have licensed professional real estate people who appraise property and put the value on it. So that is an illegitimate charge to begin with. But what Alvin Bragg did to President Trump says that during your trial, you, President Trump, you cannot speak. So no, you can't defend yourself, and no defense. You can't put forth any evidence that says you're not guilty. So you have President Trump coming in. The AG tells President Trump and his attorneys, you can't speak and you can't present any evidence. We make the charges and you're guilty. And now this judge is saying that President Trump cannot do business in New York City for 3 years, and his sons, Eric and Trump Jr., cannot do business in New York City for 2 years. I mean, he went after President Trump and his sons, and they have to pay fines. President Trump's fine is $350 million, and both of his sons also have to pay $1 million fines. Do we see something evil and corrupt going on in the courts in Fulton County, Georgia, and in New York City, Albany area? Yes, we do. We see the Dems, and they are desperate. And we see courts across the U.S. There are other courts involved. We know in Colorado, they tried to take President Trump off of the ballot, and in Maine, and I think that's going to the Supreme Court. Now, this from Newsweek. So this is another court issue, and I'll explain this one to you, that we had the last presidential election, November of 2020. Inauguration, the ceremony would have been January 6th of 2021. Well, the Dems set up what's being called J6. The Capitol Police opened the White House and invited people in. They came in, all those people who came in, the FBI charged with insurrection. Now, there was an alleged shooting there, but these were crisis actors, and there's film coming out showing that the FBI agent who allegedly fired the shot that took down Ashley Babbitt, and she's a crisis actor. She wasn't shot, but it plainly shows in the film that the gun had blanks in it and that went into the wall, not into the individual. But the deep state, via the FBI, is saying insurrection. And now a lot of people have been in jail since then. And the Dems even go and arrest people who weren't even in Washington, D.C. on that day. This was not an insurrection. No, not yet. All right, so there's a defendant coming before SCOTUS, that's the Supreme Court, regarding a charge against him for J6. His name is Joseph Fisher, and it's very likely that the Supreme Court, according to Newsweek, they're going to hear it April 16. And we know these false claims of leading an insurrection. President Trump has not been charged nor convicted of insurrection, nor, as I have demonstrated, there was no insurrection. It was a setup by the deep state. And also, during the course of this J6 event, they had the police there and FBI saying something's going on. But during the course of this is when the Congress was doing their illegal voting to put JB, to finish formally putting JB in place. And so, yeah, it's all a setup. And now they're trying to charge President Trump and other people with insurrection. It's not going to play. And now we have this. So we have from the Hill something against President Trump. I think this is that New York. So this is the judge, author Angleton. So he's the one in New York City who found President Trump owed a fine of $350 million and his sons owe millions. And now the AG in New York. Oh, I said Alvin Bragg. I think Alvin Bragg is a district attorney. So this one, AG, is actually Letitia James. So that's going on. Yeah. So, yeah, President Trump can't do business in New York City for 3 years, nor his sons for 2 years. What do you think people who might be interested in engaging in commercial real estate in New York think when they see this? No, I'm staying out of New York. I have a Patriot subscriber. We are at war. I saw 2 U.S. fighter jets flying low over Missoula, Montana. That would have been yesterday, 2:17 in the morning. And they were moving, so Montana, they were moving from the east to the west. So that's going on. And we have this. So this finding by New York, this fine, and President Trump can't do business in New York. So truckers are uniting who support President Trump, and they're not going to take any shipments to New York City. They're on strike. So, yeah, that, and it's going to begin Monday, February 19. So, if the truckers stop transporting to New York City, you find good people in New York City might find your shelves empty. And that's going on. Now, So we've been seeing, so we have Texas, California, the illegals coming in. They're also coming across our southern border. They're coming down across our northern border. And it's coming out that they're also coming in along the west coast and the east coast in boats. And in the last 3 years, so we have JB getting in 2021 to now, it's believed 6 to 10 million came in. And this information is coming out from an interview by Greg Hunter of Martin Armstrong Economist, who has the legendary Socrates predictive software that's known globally for many decades. And what his software is predicting is President Trump is in by a landslide. And I brought out in my previous video, World News, how Russia had put a satellite killer into space. And I brought out my perspective. I believe it's to control or take down satellites that had been involved in the miscounting of the presidential election of 2020. And so now Russia is also aiding President Trump in getting in, and the U.S. people in having our votes actually count. So the Socrates software is still predicting President Trump in by landslide. Now, I believe Martin Armstrong had contacted Greg Hunter and said, you know, I'd like to come on as soon as possible. And I think it's to put this information out that the software is predicting the Dems, JB, and we know JB is an actor wearing a mask, that he is going to put in place an executive order. Now, JB is an actor wearing a mask. He has zero political authority from we the people. Nothing he signs is legal. But this is being put forth that the Dems, via JB, will attempt an executive order to give illegals the right to vote. So you didn't think they were flooding our borders for no reason, did you? They had several reasons. One is to use these illegals as voters and tip the scale toward the Dems, and also to set up sleeper cells to take down the American people. And it's predicted the Dem Party in August, that's when they would have their party meeting and say who is going to be their nominee, that they will remove JB. And as I said, we're seeing mainstream media now come out with information about he's making a mistake, and he recently, that trial found him guilty of having classified documents in his garage while he was vice president, but the DOJ wasn't going to charge him because he wasn't mentally competent to stand trial. That's being put forth in a coordinated effort by the Dem Party. So the Dems understand we have to have another candidate. So it's believed when they have their nominee meeting in August, they will remove JB and they will put in Michelle Obama as the candidate for president, and Gavin Newsom, the current governor of California, as vice president. Now, this demonstrates the Dems are completely delusional. Michelle Obama, woke, don't play in the USA. You would only put this candidate forward if you were 100% detached from the real world and from the American people. That's one. Number two, Gavin Newsom. It's been known for years something happened to the flesh and blood Gavin Newsom some years ago. This individual had to go as a double, had to go to Mexico for 2 weeks to have plastic surgery, so he looked a little more like Gavin Newsom. So here we go again. So that's going on. So now, a short prayer. I'll use General Patton's World War II prayer, because we are in battle. And we come before you, Father, with humble and grateful hearts, and we ask, grant us fair weather for battle, guide us from victory to victory, and crush our enemies, domestic, foreign, and off-world, as in satellites. And we thank you, God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, and many call Yeshua, and God the Holy Spirit. I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray. God is in charge, and He is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.